Hello and welcome to the weekly commodity market update. I'm Brownfield's Will Robinson, joined as always by the University of Missouri's Ben Brown. Ben, first off, how are you? Second off, where are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, Will. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio this week. Work and then a little bit of just kind of visiting with some old friends brought me out here for a couple of days before I head home for Thanksgiving break. So
No?
it's been a good week. I spent all week in grading midterms. Our management students had their second midterm last Thursday, so got those graded and submitted today.
There you go. I feel like we're kind of two ships passing in the night right now. We're both in Columbus, but I don't think we're going to cross paths. So, oh well.
Yeah, and I'm heading home tomorrow. So.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'll be heading back to Missouri on Wednesday. So travel across the Midwest here this week for Thanksgiving. Hopefully everyone's having a great Thanksgiving week. But I do want to, jump into some of these price changes and some of the losses that we saw closing out last week. Kind of returned back to where they were, but still some slight losses across the board. December 23 corn finished down 10 cents in the week at 467. December 24 down 7 cents at 510. January 24 soybeans down 19 cents at 1363. November 24 soybeans down 6 cents at 1301. Soybean oil on a cents by pound basis for December up a little over a cent at 52.69 cents. Soybean meal by the short ton for December down $10.40 at 458.70. December wheat for 23 down 36 cents at 543. July wheat down 31 cents at 599. And then that January crude oil contract was really flat on the week at $78.36. So Ben, we saw a lot of fluctuation, especially on the soybean side. What's your overall takeaway as we enter this new week, shortened week because of Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I'll pick on that soybean complex there for just a second. We did see a lot of action in the soybean market, largely led by weather uncertainty in South America. There was a couple of days last week where it looked like it was going to be very dry and hot in prime growing regions of Brazil. That sent the markets higher. Then we got some better or some. Let me put it this way: improved rain chances of a forecast that sent the markets lower, and so that kind of helped close out the week last week. Of course, we had some demand reports that came through that were very supportive of that soybean complex. And when I look at the oil and meal market, I think that's very representative of what we see in the demand market: stronger oil prices and weaker soybean meal prices.
So, Ben, today we're going to focus heavily on the soybean side of things because there's a lot going on coming into this afternoon here. We saw things like record exports for soybeans. We saw the Ukrainian government, along with the British government, reach an agreement to possibly boost trade out of that region. We saw a record NOPA report, and then we saw some other political things throughout the globe here. So let's start first off with Ukraine. So Ukraine reached an agreement with the British government helping open up some trade out of the region. Can you explain really what's going on in the region right now and what you might expect to see for trade moving forward?
Yeah, so about the midpoint of last week, we saw this announcement that the British government was going to help subsidize insurance premiums for traders that were trying to export product out of the region. And while we've seen kind of a battle within the European Union and especially European countries in terms of their feeling for this, largely the EU has remained committed to helping Ukrainian producers get their product out and feed the world and help poor countries or these food starved African countries also get product. The reason I say that there's kind of this internal struggle within the European Union is there are some European countries that feel that the flood of cheap Ukrainian product into their region is suppressing their own farmers' prices, like Poland, for instance, and a couple other bordering countries. So it's been a battle, but I think what we've seen is we've seen a commitment by the European Union to help get product out of the region and help support the flow of grain to some of these countries that need food aid.
Well, and as you see that, what do you think the shakeup might be as far as a global perspective on how the market stands? With more product coming out of the breadbasket of the world potentially there. Do you see that impacting prices in any type of drastic way?
Well, sure. So I think the first round here is, supporting Ukrainian prices to encourage production. I think that'll be the first wave, and then we'll see maybe a little bit stronger production at some point, and then ultimately maybe some exports. Exports are going to be down this year out of the region. I think the production levels that we've seen have been supportive, and even maybe a little bit better than what many people had thought at the beginning of this conflict. But now we're starting to get to a point where those exportable supplies are starting to shrink quickly, and that's why we've seen exports out of the region fall, and especially now past this summer when the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which was that brokered deal that allowed product out of the region through a safe corridor. Now that we've seen that lapse 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, it's really kind of bottlenecked the export channels, and we've seen a drastic slowdown in the product moving out of that region.
Well, and looking at some other developments around the world, Argentina just had an election to elect a new president, and we had a bit of a surprise candidate take the election. And Ben, the president-elect looks to be potentially aggressive when it comes to agricultural policy and the position that Argentina might take in the global market. What's your read on what the situation looks like there moving forward for Argentina?
Yeah, shocked might be an understatement. The candidate that won in Argentina this week came from outside the two political, or at least the two main political parties, came really on a platform of shaking up the economy and really introducing some radical changes to help lift that country out of economic turmoil. As a reminder to our listeners, we have, for the last really for a while, we've come to know Argentina inflation at 150% year over year, and spiraling debt. And as a result, this candidate, or the new president-elect, has proposed some radical changes that if put through and with the support of their legislature, could actually lead to a rapid expansion of their agriculture industry, an industry that has been kind of identified or globally known for its export tax system. You lift those export taxes, now you're starting to allow product to move more freely out of the region, freeing up trade. The other notable thing is he's also proposed moving away from the Argentine peso to the US dollar, which would help increase trade with the United States. So two kind of offsetting things there, maybe increased trade with the United States, but also maybe more agriculture trade out of the region that continues to be a competitor for U.S. ag products, namely soybeans.
Yeah. So you see maybe a growth of a partner within Argentina, but also the growth of a competitor again within Argentina. So kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where trade, if these proposals go through, which is kind of a big if, because you got to get the support of the legislature, you got to build a coalition. But we've talked about the soy tax on here several times, in terms of they tax soybean products. That's why they make them into soybean meal and soybean oil, and those taxes help fund their government. You slash government spending, you lower those taxes, and it allows maybe a little bit more trade and potentially even the expansion of their industry.
All right, Ben, I want to throw a couple of things at you that we talked about previously. Again, dealing with the soybean complex, and any other week, these might be the leading things that we talk about, but we saw a record crush report for November through the NOPA report, looking at those oil seeds, and then also a record largest ever weekly volume of soybeans out of the U.S. So as you see these two things in tandem, what is that telling you about the tone of the global market right now and where the U.S. stands?
Absolutely. Two very supportive numbers for U.S. soybean prices. Both were pretty much as expected, which sounds crazy when we're talking about records, but there was the expectation that when we got to October, we'd see a very large domestic crush number, and we continue to add expansion in the crush industry. And then daily flash sales 2 weeks ago kind of gave us this prelude that we were going to have an all-time record soybean export volume, and that's exactly what we got. So even though they were both records, they were pretty much known by the market, and I think it kind of justifies this rally that we've seen in soybean prices here over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. All right, Ben. Well, as we move forward into, once again, this Thanksgiving week, what should farmers and ranchers be paying attention to as some of these reports might be slow to come out or delayed?
Yeah, so it is a truncated week with the Thanksgiving holiday here on Thursday. We see some reports delayed, so the export sales that we normally get on Thursday will come out on Friday. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission report that we usually get on Friday will be delayed till Monday. But I wish everybody a happy and wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you all again next week.
Ben, I just have to ask real fast, what is your go-to Thanksgiving food? Turkey is off the table, so secondary item.
Well, so in my family, it's tradition that we make homemade egg noodles, and they're kind of soupy, and that's the gravy that we use over the top of mashed potatoes. So we don't actually have gravy at our Thanksgiving. We use noodles over mashed potatoes, and that is my favorite dish. It doesn't matter if it's Thanksgiving or not. That's my favorite dish.
All right, well, good to know. Thank you for your input, and Ben, thank you for your insight as always. Here's listeners, if you'd like to learn more about us, what we do, or our sister program, Weekly Livestock Market Update, check us out at brownfieldagnews.com. Ben, thanks again. I'm Will Robinson on Brownfield.